Welcome to Liberty Today. On today's program, we'll hear from another voice saying that when it comes to the Constitution, don't amend it, defend it. Sam Kephart is here to rant about traffic cams in Iowa. And Nick Reed will tell us about a literal strongman who's leading Ukraine. All that and more today on Liberty Today.
The Constitution is a marvelous document, but many people are suggesting that it needs a lot of remodeling, and our guest, Richard Fry, is not one of those.
Nope.
Richard, you are the co-founder of Defend Not Amend.
That's correct.
And we're going to put that website up, defendnotamend.com. And you're here in the Midwest right now with the Patriot Coalition. You're general counsel for them, I understand.
Right. I'm general counsel with the Patriot Coalition, and they are a partner with the Defend Not Amend coalition, and I'm a co-founder and a general counsel of that as well. So I'm here on behalf of both those organizations.
Okay. And just so our viewers know where you're coming from, what part of the political spectrum you're from, what are you, an independent, a Democrat, a Republican, a constitutionalist? What party affiliation do you claim?
Well, I'm really an independent. Technically, I'm a Republican. But what I would say is I'm a traditionalist, constitutionalist, conservative.
Okay, well, you're in good company then. You're in good company.
It's too bad we have to so qualify what we are.
It's nice to have those slots, but sometimes we don't fit into just one.
Yeah.
Richard, you tell our listeners why you are investing your life and in this issue and why you're here.
Well, we're here because we were needed here. The message needs to get out, and this was a critical state at a critical time, and so that's why we're here. And what we're trying to do basically is to educate the public. What our position is that the promoters of an Article 5 basically have identified the wrong problem and they're presenting the wrong solution. And so we want people to understand that. And we have been extremely effective in that regard. We monitor our progress. We take surveys before and after our presentations and so forth. And we have a very significant movement from before the presentation to after the presentation to really understand what the problem is and what needs to be done about it.
Richard, there are some really good people in our state, and for that matter across the nation, who are supporting this constitutional convention. What is wrong here? Well,
there's a couple factors involved, and when I do a presentation or a debate, because I've debated several of the state directors for the Convention of States, which is a misnomer, it's a deception, but anyway. And what I always say, and I believe this, is that our patriot and grassroots brothers and sisters are doing this out of a patriotic motivation. Everybody feels desperate. It's kind of like Ron Emanuel said, don't let a good crisis go to waste, and if you don't have one, make one. And that's what they're doing. They're kind of making a crisis. And so people are desperate. They're giving them this opportunity. It seems nice and easy. Who's to blame? The politicians that no one likes. And who's going to fix it? They don't need to worry about it, the citizens, because these people have another, they have the fix. Yes. And the reality of it, and they want to say it's grassroots. It's not grassroots. It's never been grassroots. And
where does it originate then?
Well, I'll tell you, frankly, the movement itself started in 1960 when the Ford Foundation paid about $16.5 million to the Fund for the Republic. Then the Fund for the Republic set up another NGO called the Center for the Study of Democratic Institutions. It paid them $25 million to rewrite the Constitution. And it brought in a fellow by the name of Rex Tugwell. Are you familiar with Rex Tugwell?
No.
Well, everybody should be familiar with Rex Tugwell. He was a liberal professor from Columbia, had spent several years in Russia and decided that they had a great system over there. Came back here, went to work for FDR in his campaign. FDR was elected, of course. He was appointed in the Ag Department, I believe, Tugwell was. And he was called the head of the New Deal Brain Trust. So he was responsible for writing and implementing the New Deal legislation, which basically was to change our government and our society. So that's why they brought him in. He had that experience. He was a socialist, and he had that experience. In fact, they called him an internationalist at the time. A globalist is what we'd call him now. So he went out and gathered about 100 other professors and academics types, and they rewrote the Constitution. And then when they had finished that project, which was about 1972, 73.
Now, when you say they rewrote it, they didn't implement it, but they rewrote it and began the implementation of the new Constitution. Is that kind of where they're headed?
Exactly. They formulated what they thought was a better Constitution. And basically what it did a lot of things, but the main things that it did was it abolished the states and it set up federal regions, which are Soviets. That's what Soviet Union is. They set up Soviets. That means council. Soviet means council. And then basically all our rights were subject to suspension based upon an emergency declaration. So, I mean, that was the way they wanted to go. So the government had ultimate control.
On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being it's fully implemented, how far have they come?
Well, from a constitutional standpoint, they haven't. None of it's been implemented constitutionally. From a practical standpoint, a lot of it has been done, because what you see now is with these regional planning commissions, those are Soviets. That's what they are. The purpose of those are to move the government further away from the people.
It's top down.
Top down, but what they're doing is they're setting them up. It's very clever, very sophisticated. But they are setting them up now at a local level, and we have them in Kansas. We have the Mid-American Regional Council, and a lot of the organizations within the state get their money from that council. They don't get it from the federal government directly, but from these councils.
There's so much ground to cover, and we've already covered a lot, but we're not going to let Richard leave, so you'll be wanting to stay tuned for future programs, because we've got a lot to say on this subject.